What's going on everyone, it's cummina here and I'm bringing you another video from the division, and in this week I'm going to be talking about my high-end exotic build. So if you want a build that does a lot of damage, here like the Terminator, and you can mop people up, then keep watching because this could be the build for you. What's going on everyone, it's cummina here and I'm bringing you another video from the division, and in this week's video I'm going to be talking about my exotic high-end build that I've got here, and just talking you through on how you can get the best out of your build, what mods you want to attach to your weapon, and basically what I'm running on this set. So just keep watching and we'll go through it. Okay, so in this video, if we just look across the stats across the top, first of all, you can see my firearms here is at 7,115, my stamina is at 4,806, and my electronics at 2,773. If we start off with the weapons that I'm using two weapons here, the lightweight M4 and the Navy MP5. If we look at my primary Navy MP5 first, it's got 22% critical hit chance, base damage at 21.6k, and my talents are responsive, deadly and competent there. So responsive increases my damage by 10% when I'm closer than 10 meters. Deadly gives me a critical hit damage is increased by 15%, and my weapon damage is increased again then by a further 10% for 15 seconds after using a skill. If we look at the mods here that I run on this weapon, so considering it's the MP5 and it's all around the critical hit damage, I'm running it with crit chance and crit damage. If we start first, I've got the Pro Red Dot sight. It comes with 18% critical hit damage, 6% headshot damage and 2.5 critical hit chance. The magazine then is 116.5% magazine size, 3% critical hit chance and 5.10% rate of fire. I use the small red grip here, red, and it's got 18% critical hit damage, 2.5% stability and 5% reload speed. And then the Tyrant Suppressor comes with 7.5% critical hit chance, 4% critical hit damage and 6% headshot damage. Now if we just look at this weapon in terms of then the critical hit chance and damage that I get without using any pulse, critical hit chance is at 44.5% and then critical damage is at 97%. Obviously you'd want to try and get that over the 100% mark there, the critical hit damage as a minimum, but with using a pulse anyway you should be able to reach that close to the cap of 60%, or if you run with somebody that's got a strong pulse then that shouldn't be any issues there. Also as well then you should also see that damage increase. So if we just have a quick look at the lightweight M4, it's got 22% enemy armor damage on there, 22.7k base damage. Now the talents here are responsive, deadly and brutal. Looking at those talents there, responsive and deadly are great because it increases the damage and critical hit damage on the weapon. Brutal, it's good, but I would probably say more towards your PC players where it's a lot easier to hit those headshot damages other than where it is on console. So if you do have a decent lightweight M4 there, something like responsive, deadly, competent wouldn't be too bad to have. But again, brutal is not a bad talent. So if we look at the mods on this weapon here, I've got 18% headshot damage, 3% critical hit chance and 4% critical hit damage coming from the VX1 scope. The extended magazine, 110.5% magazine size with 3% critical hit chance and 4% critical hit damage. I've got the Coyote hand stop here, 27% reload speed, 4% critical hit damage and 2.5% stability. And then just looking at the Amiga rifle suppressor, 17% headshot damage, 4% critical hit damage and 3% critical hit chance. That gives my secondary DPS there 396k DPS. If we look over on the weapons with this one, the critical hit chance is obviously a lot lower because I haven't rolled that on this weapon at 18.5%, and then it gives the critical hit damage at 73%, and then headshot damage at 122% in terms of the weapon with a 2% stability just to help on the weapon even though it's fairly stable itself, and then it's got 16% all weapon damage as well, and that would help in terms of the gloves that we'll get to in a moment. start off with the chest piece here. I'm using the Barrett's bulletproof vest. Now I have rolled this in terms of health on here, with it is quite low in terms of the stamina at 1173. You know, you'd always look at a minimum of 12 being there. It has got exotic damage, resilience, and 47% ammo capacity. I run then with firearms here in terms of the mods. Now I am going to be increasing these mods here. As you can see, the first one there is pretty low, and the second one, unfortunately, I've run out of the electronics. But what you would want to be doing is rolling your firearms mods on all these items that I've got listed here, and it's up to yourself then whether you want to look at health, skill power, skill haste. But I would always recommend just adding that health just to try and keep you above the 300k toughness. Just move on to the mask. I'm using the Tenacious mask here. So the Tenacious mask increases damage by 10% for 10 seconds when using a med kit. Now in 1.6 we know the med kits are not as powerful as they used to be in previous updates, so you do find that you're using the med kits more often than what we used to. So while you're using those med kits, increasing the damage by 10% for 10 seconds is very handy. And you can see on here I've rolled firearms on terms of my gun. Its major attribute did come with health on kill and then 15% blind death resistance. In terms of the major attributes on what you want to put on your mask, is entirely up to yourself there. I just added the health on kill, which I'm quite happy to use because it does help when you're getting those knockdowns, and it does work on NPCs as well as agents. And again on here I've got a 261 firearms with 3135 skill power, because obviously I want to try and keep the skill power a little bit high just to help in terms of those heals coming back as fast as they can. So if we go on to the knee pads here, the knee pads that I'm using is the Short Bow Championship knee pads, and basically these, the fuse time on grenades is reduced to 0.2 seconds, so you're getting those grenades out very quickly before people can get out of the circle. It's just remembering if you're using them close up to jump back, as they do often go fairly quick. Again, I have rolled firearms on my knee pads here. It's got 3.5% enemy armor damage, then its minor attributes of 31% bleed resistance, 50% increased kill XP, which is a shame that that is there, but you know, I had to roll the firearms on these knee pads, and then 3% disturb resistance. Again, you can see on here I'm using a firearms mod with health, and firearms is something that I'm using on all these items. I'm then using the specialized backpack. Now the specialized backpack I have rolled on health as its major attribute, and stamina as it's roll in. It does come with 51% ammo capacity, and the specialized adds 200% of the firearms and stamina to the skill power, so which does come in very useful. And as you can see on here, I'm just using firearms there as and skill haste just to get those skills back a lot quicker. And then my prototype mods here, I'm using the first aid self heal at both 6 and 5.5%, because that first aid self heal does return a lot to yourself and it is very beneficial. Moving on to the gloves here, I use the Skull MC gloves. Now the Skull MC gloves does increase damage by 16% when no set bonus is active. So basically what that means is looking at the build, I have no gear sets there. So if I was to use two set nomads or 3 set nomads with the gloves, then those I wouldn't get that extra 16% damage bonus. So if you do use the Skull MC gloves, make sure that you're not using a gear set with it as well. So this is where it does work well in terms of the exotic and high-end builds. Now with my gloves here, again a little bit low in terms of the firearms, but it does have a fairly decent armor at 933. I have got on here this major attributes 863 SMG damage, 6% critical hit chance and 17% critical hit damage, which is what I wanted to use in terms of the crit chance and crit damage, because my primary is the SMG and that's where I'm going to be using it the most. So if you are using an SMG, then I definitely recommend, if you have got the SMG damage on there, or if you don't need them, get that critical hit chance and critical hit damage on your gloves. And Savage gloves do return higher crit chance and crit damage, but of course you don't get that increased damage like you do off the MC gloves. That's why they come in well with this build. In terms then of the last piece of my build, I use the Nimble holster. Now I know at the moment the Nimble holster has had a lot of talk on it, whether it is too powerful, etc. My personal opinion, it is, because you don't even have to run 1 meter in terms of getting a full health back to yourself. So as you can see, it heals 2% of the max health for every 1 meter running cover to cover during combat. And like I said, you don't even need to run further than 1 meter to pretty much get your health back. Its major attribute on here is 3.5% critical hit chance, and I've rolled it there to its max roll of firearms. Its terms of mods, there's 5.5% first aid self heal like I've got on the backpack, just to help in terms of the heals that I'm getting for myself. And I just recommend any performance, prototype performance mods that you're going to be using on your gear, try to use those first aid self heals, because they do help a lot. Lastly, now I just want to go in terms of the skills that I use here. So I do use the Scrambler Pulse and the Overdose, but it's entirely up to yourself what you want to use on this build. I do use the Scrambler Pulse just for that extra critical hit chance and crit damage that it gives myself. It's only 10.7%, but I do change this out where needed if somebody in my team is running with that pulse, or if we've got a strong pulse I know that's running in the team. And you can use anything you like there in terms of helping your team, whether it's immunizer, or if you want to use the flashbang, or you could even use the disruptor there. In terms of the talents that I do use in terms of this build, I do use critical save, so using a med kit during low health does increase damage resistance by 20% for 10 seconds. But what you've also got to remember as well, with a tenacious mask and you pop that med kit, you're also getting the extra damage as well. I do use combat medic. I think that everybody who runs in a group should be having combat medic on. If you haven't, or if your group doesn't, then I would definitely consider using that, because it does come in very handy. I then use Tactical Advance, and the reason that I use Tactical Advances is because I'm going to be using running cover to cover a lot with a nimble holster in terms of trying to get my health back. So if I am running those cover to cover, then it makes sense to use the Tactical Advance as well. So the weapon damage is increased by 2% per meter covered for 5 seconds. So it is very quick in terms of the seconds of the use, but you can keep resetting that. There is no refresh or download time in terms of the Tactical Advance coming back. So if you are using the nimble holster, definitely use Tactical Advance as well. And then just lastly, I use On the Move, so killing a hostile while moving to reduce incoming damage by 15% for 10 seconds. Now that is in terms of my build here. Now if you have any recommendations, or if you run this build and use it differently, then I would like to see your comments below on what you find useful in terms of builds in this game. Now I have got some gameplay at the end of the video, so if you want to stay tuned to watch that just to see the builds in action, then you're more than welcome to. Now if you did enjoy this video, agents, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Thank you very much for watching, agents, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.
They've taken Bravo. A friendly fortification is under fire.